everyone, Tony D with a hot take, and this one's on censorship. Why am I showing Trump for a rant about censorship? It's because one of my fellow writers on Twitter um, was asking the media to stop covering Trump's press conferences. And that, I believe, is ridiculous to ask for censorship. And I realize that technically censorship is only when the government does it, but it is a lesser form of censorship when you're asking the media not to cover the president. It's certainly politically motivated because everything the president does is newsworthy. He's the leader of the most powerful country on earth, and literally every news organization in the world covers his daily activities. There's ample reason to do that. There's no ample reason to cover the daily activities of, say, I don't know, Luxembourg. But in the United States, which impacts every other country in the world, you have to cover the President of the United States because you're covering America. And American news organizations, to ask them not to cover the president is bizarre. And it comes from this idea that the news organizations are running interference for the Democrats. And this is unacceptable. This is unacceptable that they would try to do this. And they're trying, but they're not succeeding. You're actually succeeding in doing the opposite. You're making the president more watched. People are annoyed that you would try to close off access to their president, giving daily briefings. Just a few months ago, these same exact reporters were complaining that the president didn't give enough press conferences. Now that he's doing them every day and everybody's watching them because they're stuck at home with no work, now they're actually complaining about him. It's mind-boggling how bad Trump derangement syndrome is. Don't ask for censorship. Here's why. Even if you still hate Trump, even if you believe that the press conferences, by stopping the press conferences, you're actually hurting him. You're not, by the way. You're helping him. Because everybody just becomes more annoyed and becomes more entrenched to vote for him. But let's imagine that you were right. If you could just cut off the media's access to Trump, you could finally defeat the Trump. Oh no. Okay. So you do that. Then what? You're propping up Biden, right? I mean, that's why you're doing it. It's not because you give a crap about anybody else watching the Trump press conferences. And what if Trump, and it looks like all the evidence is pointing to that he's right about the malaria drug, what if that becomes the de facto drug you're treated with a year or two from now when you get the beer virus? Are you going to sit in the hospital and, when they bring you the malaria drug and say, oh, well, I can't take that? Why? Your doctor says to take this. Oh, because the president told me to take it. I refuse to listen to that man. Are you going to do that? I don't think you will. It's ridiculous. If you did, you'd be a bizarre statistic for TDS. And the thing is, the wheel turns. These media companies that are currently owned more by liberals or neoliberals or whatever you want to call them, right now they are. And certainly the Silicon Valley is. The wheel will turn, and these will be bought by people with more conservative views because they're rich. People who are rich tend to be conservative. The only rich people who aren't conservative are the neoliberal elites who most people in the Democratic Party hate or can't stand anyway. That's how you ended up with Hillary Clinton. That's how you've ended up with Joe Biden. Oh, another rich guy who is going to lose. You are the elites now. You are the establishment. Trump is anti-establishment. And technically, he's now more popular and more trusted than the actual news. Polling suggests that. If you don't believe it, look it up. I'm not going to show you the charts. And today, during his press conference, he said this.
And I also spoke just a few minutes ago with former Vice President Biden, who called, and we had a really wonderful, warm conversation. It was a very nice conversation. We talked about pretty much this. This is what we talked about. This is what everyone's talking about. This is what they want to talk about. And he gave me his point of view, and I fully understood that. And we just had a very friendly conversation. Lasted probably 15 minutes, and it was really good. It was really good. Really nice. I think it was very much so. I appreciate his calling. As we continue our
So that was something he didn't have to say. Donald Trump has been well known to say inappropriate things at inappropriate times. He could have easily turned that into F Joe Biden if he wanted to, if Biden had been a jerk. I'm sure he would be rambling on and on about what a jerk he was over the phone if Biden had been a jerk. I have no doubt in my mind. I mean, do you? Do you really think that if Biden called him up and read him the riot act that Trump would be gracious right now? Do you think Trump's that kind of person to overlook being disrespected? I don't think he is. Trump was fine with the phone call. It's an overdue phone call. Biden should have made this call weeks ago. Biden, in his various aborted addresses, should have said supportive things about the president, or to the president at least, that he was hopefully going to succeed. Look, I didn't like George W. Bush. I think he is the worst president that ever lived. But when he stood upon the rubble at 9/11, I wasn't going to go rush to New York to spit on the guy. That was in the middle of the crisis. You know, for a few days, you kind of had to wave the American flag and just be like, okay, what happens next? Let's get in all the facts. Now, later it turned out there was a lot of lying and a lot of criticism. I, for one, did not supportive of the Iraq War in any way. I didn't think the Iraqis did it, and even if they did, I thought going to war with them was a stupid idea. Turns out I was right about that. Turns out Trump is looking righter and righter about the malaria drug. There are more and more reports on the internet, in the news, that the drug is working. This may be the drug that you're treated with if, God forbid, you get the beer virus. Are you going to refuse the drug because Trump said it was good? That would be pretty extreme. I'm sure the leader of World War II Germany believed in oxygen. Are you going to hold your breath until you die? There are scientific facts, and they are beyond politics. You have to accept that. You have to stop being anti-science because you're so emotionally connected to getting rid of Trump. Because I promise you, you won't be so emotional after he's out of office in 2024 and he's a retired president. And in fact, the next guy coming in, the next Republican, the same people will complain about him like it's hell on earth having him as president. That's an overreaction. The overreaction to Trump has destroyed the Democratic Party. They are looking to be completely shellacked in the upcoming election. And when I mean shellacked, I mean it will look like what happened in the UK, nothing. Places in this country are going to turn red simply because things have gone too far. You know, things have gone too far. I think the governments in New York and New Jersey are in big trouble, especially in New York, for their responses. They're going to remember Bill de Blasio defying the lockdowns and going to the gym and saying that well, it's not that big a deal in late February, early March. They're going to remember that. He is done. He is done as a mayor, and he's probably done as a career politician. Cuomo, 50-50. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see what happens when he's up for re-election. Same thing with Gavin Newsom. But look, asking for censorship during a crisis, that's help me, Daddy, help me. You can take care of yourself in this crisis. I'm against the stimulus. I think it's a bad idea. But it's happening. There's nothing I could do to stop it. I mean, I said it was bad and protested and sent an email to my congressman. I actually told them to stop blocking the stimulus because I figure if they just pass the first one, maybe there won't be a second one. Because I knew there's no chance that they're not passing a stimulus. But I didn't want the Democrats to add a bunch of stuff, which they basically did. Anywho, look, I didn't vote for Trump. I'm a libertarian. I believe in freedom. And so censorship is not a sensible response to this crisis. If you're playing politics in the middle of this crisis, you really should take a deep look in yourself at what you're doing. This isn't the time for politics. This isn't about politics. We need facts. We need help. Watch my good news segment with Little Joan, and you'll see some people who are helping. That's what we need. Politics? No, not right now. Give it another month or two. Then you can go back to politics and screaming and crying.